that jacket 80s or 90s?
Oh, this jacket is giving 90s.
No, it's giving 80s.
It's giving me transition from 89 to 90.
Is that when you were born?
It was when I was in the process of being thought of. Hey guys, welcome to the Randell Adjei Show. It's your boy BG. This week, we're back with a fire Hennessy Conversation with Ontario's first ever Poet Laureate, Randell Adjei. But before we run the tape on that convo, we're taking a walk down memory lane and talking about our favorite nostalgic things from growing up in the 90s. We're also going to let you know that we do have this really crazy doing too much moment about a blog that went rogue and reported that the Queen is dead. No joke. But before we get into all of that, I do need you to do a few things like subscribing to this channel, tapping that notification bell, and make sure to follow us across all of our social media. The details are in the description below. Okay, I don't know if you guys have heard, but we have to get nostalgic this moment because an iconic show, one of our favorites, my favorite, Arthur, aired its final episode recently after 25 years, and it got us all feeling a little bit sad. Burns, I know you know the theme song off by heart, so let me call you out if you wanna. Every day,
when you're walking down the street,
everybody that you meet
and get along with each other.
And I say,
Hey,
hey, you gotta listen to your heart, listen to the beat, listen to the rhythm, going down the street. What do you miss from your childhood?
Saved by the Bell, Fresh Prince, Will Smith. Yeah, Will Smith was like my first love.
Fresh Prince of Bel-Air?
I liked cartoons, like Recess. I really liked Recess.
Oh, Recess was good. Pengu. You remember the little clay penguin?
Yeah.
That was something I missed from my childhood because my grandma and I used to watch it all the time when I was little.
Aww.
And he doesn't speak, which is even better because you'd have to guess what he was thinking.
He just like makes like
You
weird
get goosebumps
noises, right?
when you talk about that. Is there anything else that you miss?
Yes, snacks. 90s had the best snacks.
Dunkaroos.
What snacks?
Dunkaroos.
Dunkaroos were good, yeah.
Fruit by the foot.
Fruit by the
Fruit
foot.
gushers.
Yes,
fruit
fruit
roll-ups.
fruit gushers
I was
were good.
clearly big on the fruit. Like,
I
big comfy
know.
couch.
Oh, Lunette!
Hey, the big comfy couch was where it was at.
You want to know what I
loved
always
her.
wondered? Was the couch actually comfy?
Yes. You didn't see how much she stretched and turned and flipped and tripped?
She-
She definitely.
Where was that accent coming from, though? We actually went and asked people on the streets, you know, what do they miss from the decade of the 90s? Here's what they had to say. What do you miss from the 90s?
90s.
Yeah.
Music, roller skating, all of that.
Yeah, you used to do roller skating?
Oh, hell yeah, man. I still do.
What music do you miss from the 90s?
To be honest, I just like the good R&B.
Some of the good music back in the 90s.
Yeah, what was your favorite artist?
Oh God, I was into hair bands back then.
I never heard of that.
Well, you know, the heavy metal.
Gotta be the music. Music, definitely.
Oh,
music. Yeah,
who were you listening to in the 90s?
Nirvana.
No Biggie? No Tupac?
Yeah, I was around, but I wasn't really a big fan. But yeah.
I miss really bad TV shows.
Like
that
which ones?
Courage the Cowardly Dog, or those like kind of really old school cartoons.
Yeah,
So
you didn't watch Fresh Prince or anything like that?
Oh yes, that as
Yeah.
well. Yes.
Space Jam with Michael
Space
Jordan?
Jam. Yes, that was a classic.
Yeah.
You know what? Back then, you
Yeah.
could say what you want. Today's world, everybody's a pansy.
Yeah.
You gotta watch what you say in today's world.
Yeah, especially you.
Yeah.
But here's what I'm also gonna say about people who were born in the 90s. And not to say anybody born in any other decade is less than, but I think people who were born in the 90s are positioned to lead the world best. Here's why. We were here on the planet before the internet came. We knew the world before internet, but it came just in time to transition our lives while we were old enough to grasp what was happening. You get what I'm saying? And so now we're living in a time where there's a generation of folks that don't know the world before internet, but there's also an older generation that didn't get internet until they were too old. You know, no disrespect. We have this perfect balance of connecting two different generations, one that only knows the internet and one that got the internet a bit too late. I'm just gonna say if you're born in the 90s, just know that you're blessed and your company should make you the CEO. Okay, so listen, we wanna know what takes you back to your childhood. Let us know in the comments, what do you miss most from the 90s? Drop your thoughts in the comments right now. All right, let's get to our Hennessy conversation, because this week I sat down for an incredible interview with Ontario's first ever Poet Laureate, Randell Adjei, for a special Hennessy conversation. Listen to this. He's literally somebody who embodies what it means to never stop and to never settle. And in our convo, you're gonna get an inside look at who Randell is, what it means to be a Poet Laureate, and how poetry literally saved his life. Roll the tape.
This colloquial tongue I speak is foreign to my ancestors who once spoke me into existence. I am of a bloodline that was scattered across the ocean. This once foreign tongue used to oppress me. It is this stolen tongue I now use to speak of my oppression.
Randell Adjei, the man of many words. I should say, thanks for joining us on the BG Show.
Happy to be here today.
We're excited to have you on for this Hennessy Conversation. You know, it's still Black History Month, and you are definitely at the forefront of that, becoming Ontario's first Poet Laureate. A lot of people, you know, would love to know, what does it mean to hold that title? Or what does that title even mean in the first place?
So basically it was created in honor of Gord Downie,
Yeah.
who was the lead singer of the Tragically Hip. And essentially it was to honor his legacy and what he was able to do with his words, using poetry and music as a way for social change. So it's a 2-year term.
Yeah.
It's in partnership with the Legislative Assembly of Ontario. So I have I guess an office at Queen's Park. Which
Is it right beside Doug Fort's?
No, he's in the tower.
Okay.
Over. Ultimately for me, my main goal is I want to really use poetry as a way to drive social change, because it's really changed my life. I wouldn't be the person I am today without poetry.
Yeah.
Poetry definitely saved my life.
What do you mean that poetry saved your life? How did it do that?
I was an angry kid, Brandon. Like, I got into a lot of trouble at a really young age. I was
Seeing you in the
arrested.
principal's office a lot?
Oh, a lot. I was arrested 3 times at 12 years old for robbery, failed to comply, and assault. And I wasn't even a bad kid. I was just someone who's getting into a lot of trouble. You know, just childhood trauma that I was going through, like a lack of belonging, a sense of misunderstanding. And I think what was happening was a lot of people were just continuing to just label me as a bad kid, and being labeled as a bad kid, I just started to adhere to it. I started to say, okay, that's who I am at the end of the day, you know? So
Words are powerful.
they're so powerful, especially what teachers speak. Like I had in grade 6, my principal said I was the worst student she ever had in 31 years of teaching.
What?
And so
She said that to your face?
So that's my face. And actually my mom was there with me too. That's a reality. And so I want you to imagine when you hear that 11 years old, what it makes you think about, who you start to believe you are because of what the elders and the adults are telling you. But it wasn't until I got a teacher in grade 8. I got moved from my school in grade 7. And then when I started grade 8, this teacher just out of nowhere, I want you to imagine, like, there's a record of a kid who's 13, who's been arrested 3 times, who's been suspended more than 30 times. So when that teacher gave me a pen and a paper for the first time, she never judged me, she never labeled me, she just said, tell me your story.
This is while you're in grade 8.
First time, grade 8.
Yeah.
I think this is the first time any adult ever said, I want to hear you, like, tell me your story. No one ever wanted to listen to me. And a lot of it had to do with, you know, trauma at home, but it was just my relationship with my dad and just the community I was living in at the end of the day too.
Do you mind sharing, what was that relationship like with your dad?
You know, he's a proud African man, doesn't show many emotions. And I think growing up, he was like a superhero for me. You know, he was someone I really loved and admired and really appreciated. And so his lack of emotional understanding and his lack of, I guess, empathy in the household really affected me in a large way. And a large part of it was me wanting to act out so I could get his attention. And I think only later on I realized why I was doing what I was doing at the end of the day, you know? So
when you're writing this down for her and she's reading this is what's sparking your interest now in poetry.
Absolutely.
Do you remember what you wrote down on that piece of paper?
It was pretty much about my arrest and my anger, like being angry, growing up in the hood, not really having many positive role models, you know, and what it gave me an opportunity to do was to step back and observe and recognize, like, that's not really who I am. That's just a part of the journey that I've been on. So that's what poetry for me often does. I get to reflect, I get to step back and look at life from a different perspective and understand that.
So at which point did you start taking poetry seriously?
There's something to say about the third time as a charm. So 13 was the first time I was introduced. 16, I went to the National Society of Black Engineers conference and saw Buna Muhammad performing on stage. So I see Buna Muhammad and immediately I'm like, I'm gonna do that one day. And
for real?
Literally, I just sat there, like, that day, one day that's gonna be me.
Because his words touched you?
His words, like, yo, Brandon. What he was speaking about was, you know, when someone just is able to articulate your journey, your story, and they don't even know who you are? That's what I felt that day. I went home and wrote my first spoken word piece, but then I put it down again. And then 19, I picked it back up again. And 19, third time was a charm. It was like every 3 years, it was like, hey, poetry, hey, poetry. And
it was like knocking on your door, but you weren't necessarily letting it in.
No, I wasn't. And I think I was just still finding my voice in myself.
Do you remember the first poem that you wrote?
I don't remember the first one, but what I do remember was the feeling of, man, this is me, you know? And I'll tell you a quick story. When I was 7 years old, I used to walk around my house pretending as though there's like 1,000 people in front of me and I was speaking. So I think even at a young age, I knew I had something inside of me to say, but I think I had to go through life before I had something to say, you know? And that's the thing about storytelling, right? You have to really experience life so that you have wisdom and knowledge and experience that you can speak to.
What were people telling you when you were starting to take poetry more seriously? You know, you're just stepping into your 20s. Most people are probably like, I would assume, saying, no, go be a doctor, go do this, go do that. You said you're African, so I'm just like, they would say, go be a lawyer, go be, you know, because Africans have high ambition. I respect it.
Nah, you're so on point. My mom and my dad, especially, you know, when I told them I wanted to be a poet, you know, thinking of all the sacrifices they made coming to this country. Oh, Randell, you want to be a poet? Like, they were just not happy, you know what I'm saying? Like, they were just not happy. So they're not happy to the point where they were just constantly every day, like, you know, just keep doing it, like finish school and do this and do that. But it was just, this wasn't me. Like, it just wasn't who I was. And I think something I want to share with everybody is when you have a vision in life, understand that it's your vision. Other people won't see the vision. And you have to understand that, keep pushing, keep going, because it's yours, it's not theirs. So, you know, fast track to when I was appointed, my mom and my dad were there with me. And my dad was like, yo, man, I'm so proud of you, I could cry, you know? And that, like, for an African man to say that, like a real, you know, macho African man, it was probably, it just brought everything full circle as to why I had to do and prove to him that you can follow your dreams and you can do what you love to do.
Knowing where you came from as a child and holding all of that energy that you had towards your dad, and then 2 decades later hearing him say that, describe that feeling for me.
First time he ever said he was proud of me. First and only time he ever said he was proud of me, you know? I was 29, I waited 29 years to hear those words. So it was very eye-opening. It was very relieving because even throughout the years, even starting Rise, he'd hear about all the good things I was doing. He's come out to my events, but it was just still this in the back of my mind, like, you're doing good, but I see more for you, you know? It was just, like, our relationship is way better now. You know, we have a beautiful relationship, and that's why I'm able to walk and navigate the world, because I've healed through that trauma. I've been able to understand that my dad himself was a broken child, and he gave me the path to understand that I can be better based on what he couldn't do for me, you know?
So as you transitioned into high school, what were those years like for you?
Well, for me, basketball was it. The only reason why I went to the high school I went to was because of basketball. I went to Blessed Mother Teresa at the time. Now it's called Saint Mother Teresa. And ultimately, you know, what changed for me, I didn't even make the team in grade 11. That's really what it came down to. The guys were, you know, better, faster, stronger, whatever. But I was someone who was so dedicated to this thing. I woke up at 6 a.m. in the morning to work on my craft. And for him to say, you're not gonna make the team, like, really crushed my dreams. So I went home, and I'll never forget being 16, I cried, and I was just like, man, what's next? Like, this is all I dedicated myself to, right?
What was next for you?
Leadership. And I think what was really transformative in those years, that was grade 11, I went to Orlando. First time I ever seen people that looked like me that were successful. Grade 12, I went to India, and I learned about happiness in India. I think when you're 17 and you leave the confines of your comfort zone, you get to see the world, and the world will teach you more about who you are as a person.
Do you remember your first time that you went up on stage and recited your first poem?
I do. I was in grade 11. We had a talent show, international talent show. And I bombed it.
What do you mean you bombed it?
I recited a poem that I heard on Def Poetry Jam. And I bombed it. Like
you forgot the words
I
or
forgot
something?
the words. And then I stood on stage and I tried. So I tried to, like, do it in front of people. But I realized I had to do more rehearsing behind the scenes. So I made sure the next time I got on stage that I could actually show up and be better. I could really deliver something that was worth listening to.
Do you remember the first time you performed where you're like, I nailed that shit? Like, I nailed that. Like, y'all had the audience and they were...
I'd probably say it wasn't until I started Rise. Like, I had to kind of create a platform for myself.
And what age was that?
I think I was 20, everyone was clapping. And it wasn't like my ego feeling like everybody loved what I said. I think it was just people felt connected to it. And there's something sacred about performing. You know, there's something sacred about being on stage and having people's ears for even a moment.
You know, just sitting and talking with you, it's like one of the things that comes to my mind is like you never stop. You're not here to settle. You never settle. Like, you're continuously pushing through. And I love that you opened up about your childhood, because I feel like there are so many people who either have children going through that or have gone through that and haven't healed from that. What words do you have for people about that experience and how they can also continue to push forward?
I mean, the best thing I can say is you are not going through the situation because you did anything wrong. You're going through the situation because there's something for you to learn. There's an opportunity for you to grow. I feel like I've been sharing this a lot lately, but there's an analogy of a seed.
Yeah.
So, you know, you have a seed, right? And the seed can turn into what? A rose, a flower, so many different things.
Yeah.
Fruits, vegetables. But in order for that seed, the potential in it, to be able to create whatever it needs to create, you have to plant it into the darkness of soil. So when you put it in the darkness of soil, the potential inside of it, you know, it'll crack, and then it roots itself into that soil. And only in that darkness can it find its light. And we are like those seeds. We're gonna be broken. We're gonna be buried into dark soil. And we have to be able to find our way to find our light, because how do you appreciate the light without the darkness, right?
Yeah. What's next for you? Do you ever wonder, like, what's next for you? Do you have plans?
The goal for me next is I want to be able to finish my second book.
Yeah.
And I guess the other thing that's really next for me personally is there's a residency that I'm hoping to create with a couple friends of mine, Dwayne Morgan and Pauline O'Keefe.
Yes.
Just to give artists an opportunity to go back home to the continent and experience art and experience their ancestry and create art.
You know, I have you here now, and I don't want to put you on the spot, but I mean, if I have Ontario's first Poet Laureate, I'm gonna have to ask him to take the stage.
For sure, for sure.
You mind reciting something for the audience?
I will, and I think what I'm gonna do is, because we talked about my dad, I'm gonna share a poem about my dad. It's called My Father's a Broken Child. Okay.
Even I'm getting nervous, not gonna lie.
My father is a broken child, too afraid to face the mistakes of his past, too afraid to accept and acknowledge the children he scarred and wounded with his shattered pieces, too afraid to reconcile with his demons to even look me in the eyes and accept that he is a reason his shallow heart nearly drowned my mother in the deep end. I mean, I empathize with what my mother had to endure. His words and his actions made her so insecure. I mean, clearly he's aged, but not matured. For so long, I walked around with a heavy heart and a sense of neglect. A juvenile delinquent with no sense of purpose. I was working for a love for my father because I felt I had to earn it, so I sought for ways to get his attention. After school detentions turned to suspensions and then getting arrested, just hoping he would sit and teach me a lesson, just sit and talk with me. Help me try to understand why I felt so awkwardly. I felt diseased and I thought he could doctor me. But see, the older I get, the clearer I see him, another broken child with little to believe in. After years of reflection, I called him to tell him that I forgive him because I expected things of him he wasn't given. I held him high on a pedestal he never even knew existed, and then expected him to know it and live it. So after pouring my heart over the phone, he was speechless. He said he called back, and then I heard a dial tone. But regardless, it was probably one of the most courageous things I've ever done. And I'm so glad that my soul chose to be his son, because they say smart people learn from their mistakes, but wise people learn from others. And because there are so many broken children, I refuse to raise another. It always takes something, you know, you gotta channel this energy.
Randell, honestly, thank you so much for joining me on the show. I feel like this conversation has been a blessing. Would you be welcome to open a bottle of Hennessy with me and having a little drink?
Let's make it happen.
Let's do it. Powerful, eh? Like, I feel like I still have goosebumps.
It's beautiful when somebody can be that vulnerable with their story.
Yeah, vulnerability, honesty, it can change lives. And you wanna know why it's so important to be honest? Because in this week's Doing Too Much moment, we have a publication that is not honest. They are liars. We are talking about Jason Lee and his publication called Hollywood Unlocked. I don't know if you guys have heard about this, but earlier this week, they came out with breaking news to their more than 2 million followers on Instagram, saying that they had exclusive information that the Queen of England, what's her name?
Elizabeth.
Queen Elizabeth II was dead. And we were on it because we were like, what?
We saw it the moment it came out.
Them getting it before the BBC?
Right, but that, yeah.
Which is how I knew.
Yeah, something was
how I
off. The entire world was like, how are you putting this information out there? How do you have this exclusive information, this blog from the States? And then he came out defending the fact that his sources are reliable, that the news was actually real.
They posted it again.
Right? And then after he ended his little, saying that he's at Donda too. To me, it feels like a publicity stunt. And because of that, we are officially giving him the title of Dev.
Doing too much.
That's what it is for this week. Hopefully they understand the importance of not spewing fake news. And if you don't trust them, there is an outlet you can trust.
The Brandon Gonez Show.
Which also produces
News you can use.
We love to hear it. All right, and just a reminder to make sure you subscribe to this channel, tap that notification bell, follow us on all of our social media. We hope you enjoyed this episode. We will see you again next week, same time, same place. We love you for watching. Hey BG Squad, thanks so much for checking out our channel. And listen to this, we have more great content for you, like this video right here and this video right here. By the way, don't forget to subscribe to this channel right now and tap that notification bell.